Hey everyone, welcome back to the Human Design Lounge. I'm Tiffany, and Leisha is going to be teaching us a second part of tribal circuitry today. So if you don't have your chart yet, you can go to mybodygraph.com, and we are happy to stick around to answer questions after her presentation or her class here. And Leisha, thank you so much. I'm going to spotlight you.
Okay, thank you. So, of course, we're doing the summer series, as Tiffany said, on circuitry, and we've already done individual circuitry. We've done the first piece of tribal circuitry. So I'll kind of orient us with where we are in the tribal circuitry journey. So we're doing our second part today. Oops, let me get my keys working here. So this is, again, just orienting us within circuitry. We're talking about circuitry. There's 3 circuit groups: individual, tribal, and collective. You move from the individual, and then we go to the tribe, which is kind of the community, the family, the smaller tribe that we're each in our worlds, and then the collective, like all of humanity. So we'll be starting our collective next time. Just to orient us again with tribal circuitry, this is about the defense and preservation of reproduction and material support. So last time we talked about making and nurturing, children, but also like creative projects and things that can be fertile in the world, and that supporting the human species. Today, we're really talking more about the material support side of the tribal circuitry, and then we'll move into collective next time. Okay. So this is also kind of an overview slide just to remember the general points of tribal circuitry, and then we'll dive into the circuits within tribal that we're going to look at today, kind of the sub-circuits. So of course, tribal circuitry is the foundation of our communities, sexuality, and civilization. The key word is support. For individual, it's empower. For tribal, it's support. For collective, it's sharing. So this is about support. It makes sense. Somebody with tribal circuitry is going to be about support, and want to feel supported. It's about touch and smell, a big time touch, whereas individual was acoustic. So this is more about the touch and like the feeling and the hugs and all those different things. And we'll touch on some of the smell today. This is about the deal, the trade, the bargain, like the material plane, resources. I give you this, you give me that. I'm supporting you in this way. This is how you're giving your contribution, all of that. This is not focused on the individual. So you can see why those two needs can conflict, or why you would have to kind of move through the experimentation to find exactly how that balances. Because maybe you're getting so many things that you need that are enriching for your life and your individual being by being in the right tribe, or it may be causing you to not follow your own individual thing, and it's conflicting because maybe it's not the right tribe. Again, strategy and authority, we know, will always follow, take us out of the incorrect and into the correct. It's just the trick of following that strategy and authority, waiting and seeing what happens. This is about certain rules and laws that we all have to abide by to be part of the group. So the tribe is about rules. It's about you follow the rules, you're accepted in the tribe. So you can see already how that can conflict with individuals who don't care about the rules. They're here to do their own thing. Yes, Tiffany. And also, like I always talk about my teen who has like 17 million individual channels, and they have like one beautiful tribal channel, which we'll touch on today. So I'm like, oh, it's a saving grace. But for the family part, but it's knowing this changes that whole dynamic where they're not going to just automatically be thinking about the family all the time and that what the family needs. They're like self-contained, So you can see where already the rules and things can kind of come up. And then maintaining timeless tradition is what tribal circuitry is about, preserving a solid foundation. So it's very resistant to change. If someone has a lot of tribal circuitry, they may not be just able to just boop, 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 change, even if it's needed, right? Because it's very sticky. It's like that tribal circuitry is like grabbing all the tribe, and it wants the tribe to stay together. So there's we mentioned last time the penta and the dynamics of family. And Tiffany, we made a note last time, ooh, we should do one on penta. So when we plan 2024, we can think about that. Oops. And so this comes, just this other point, coming together through tribal circuitry does demand individual sacrifice. It doesn't mean it's not correct. Doesn't mean somebody that's individual should not be in a tribe, a family, or a smaller community can't work in that. Doesn't mean that at all. It's all differentiated, and this is just the mechanical information. And then we find in our own personal experimentation, how does that show up? Where is that true for me? And what tribes are correct and what aren't. Okay. So last time we looked at this defense circuit, and this is only 2 channels. It's the 5027 preservation. So it's supporting our young, our things that we create, our creations, our things that are going to live beyond us. So it's supporting that with care and by sticking to our values and things like that. And then this side, the 59.6, is about reproducing. It's about making something new. It's about making children. It's also about something fertile in the world that can grow and continue to support the tribe. Yes, Tiff.
Um,
I love how you raised your hand.
It took me like 5 minutes
It
to
sounds
find it
them
too.
appropriate. Okay.
I just said, like, if I had clicked it when I had the question 5 minutes ago, that would
I
have.
don't know what it was now because you kept talking.
No, what I was thinking was the kind of the Venn diagram between astrology and human design. It's not clear, and there's so many different like I do evolutionary astrology. Like in astrology, there's different ways to look at astrology. In human design, there's like a one main path from the lineage, and then there's all these distorted or not ways of interpreting it. And it's similar with astrology, but when you're talking about the tribal, when you were saying like, am I in the right tribe or not, what I'm thinking of is you could also look to your astrology chart in your 11th house. You could look to the sign and the planetary ruler there. And if you were completely in the wrong tribe, for example, if everything clashed, and you're like, I got to get some new friends, this is ridiculous. One area you could look at would be your 11th house for the tone and the type of tribe that would feel perhaps better to your nervous system, keep you more regulated. I didn't mean to interrupt your flow.
Not at all.
Okay, cool. That's all.
No, I love when you tie in different things because I know that we're always like, there's more tie-in, and me and you need to go like deep on a weekend and just get into stuff. I mean, because already I'll just name and then we'll go back in that these different gates are in a sign, and that's just the sun. So of course we can see on the chart, there's, yeah. And some people have really gone into that whole connection, but me and you should do that. Okay.
Right. Different transmission.
Exactly. So we can kind of like marry those two because that's what we're talking about here. Okay. So yes, great point. So the other in tribal circuitry, the other circuit within that, it's like a sub-circuit, is the ego circuit. So this is about, you see the ego center is defined. This is about creation and distribution of material resources. So, money, food, shelter, home, like even to me, knowledge goes in, even though it says material resources, but to me, there's also that piece of it in my experience. I have tribal gates in my cross. So I relate in certain ways, and we'll get into that. Okay. So this is about creating and protecting and nurturing our young, our creative projects, our thing that we're here to express and do in this life, each of us individually. And this is about, and as a family, and this is about creating and distributing material resources. So there's a lot to that. So we'll kind of get into that. So and you can also just look at the centers defined as we did here. It's like the life force energy through awareness of what's good for our well-being and what, makes life rich and is, and is deep and desirable and those kinds of things. Like, what are our desires and what are they creating and what's good for our well-being? Like, so you can just kind of look at the centers and weave them through together in different ways. In the ego circuit, it's through awareness, whether it's splenic or solar plexus. So it's either about what's our intuitive awareness, our spontaneous, instinctual, like ancient awareness, versus what's our emotional awareness, right? The vital energy from the root, the fuel through awareness to like as a genetic imperative to make more, maintain, to have material resources, to speak for the tribe, to be able to demonstrate us as a tribe. That's kind of what that throat center does. So I'm just kind of weaving things together. All right, so let's get into the ego circuit. Now, there's ways that we can even split up the ego circuit. So I'm going to kind of lead us to that because it's easier to see how it works. These are all the channels, okay? So again, so we have the 5432, which is drive and ambition. So this is ambitious drive and energy, like, and then this channel, the 2644, which Tiffany has, I have half of that, takes the results of this energy produced and transmits and sells that value so the tribe agrees. It's like, you know what, you're right, you're transmitting something that what's important, and that is what's good for the tribe, and that is how we're all going to be supported, and our needs are going to be met. So it's like this channel is sort of saying, hey, this is what we need to be like in good shape, tribe. Pay attention. And it's almost like not a convincing, but there's a manipulation of that message for the good of the tribe, because it's like, hey, we need to be provided for. So these are the keys. These are the, the things, so that the tribe agrees and receives support. Again, for the good of the tribe. The 1949, so from the root to the solar plexus, this is the one that my teenager has, synthesizes, this is the channel synthesis, synthesizes all that needs to be provided and bargains with the community, ensuring we have enough for everyone's needs to survive. So this is like, what are your emotional principles? What do you need? What do I need? Like, let's synthesize all that together. Can it all be met? And we'll go into that a little bit more. The 3740, so this is, from the solar plexus to the ego, gets commitment for the support that will be delivered, focusing on the relational health of the tribe. So this is about the right community. It's the channel of community. It's about the right community. It's about friendship and family and being alone, working for the community, working for my family, and then needing alone time. So I'm kind of weaving in some keynotes from the different pieces. And then the 2145, which our lovely Camden has, the money line, okay, is like the leader speaking on behalf of the tribe to get resources. Okay, because this is like the heart ego center is really, it's the material plane, it's self-worth, it's what's the good trade, what's the good deal. It's about money and resources. It's about material plane. So this line is being able to speak up for those material goods and sort of ensure that the entire tribe that this person is sort of ruling over, in a way, because that's the queen gate here, that the tribe's needs are met, because that's how the ruler has their needs met. So this is a very tribal gate. Okay, so I just want to weave all those channels. These are all the channels in the ego circuit. Remember, tribal circuitry is also these two channels, but we did touch on those last time. Okay. I also have a note. So it's the drive to meet needs through awareness. Okay. The drive to meet needs through awareness. Transmitting what's best for the need of the tribe. So that's almost like these two channels. There's like a transmission element here. And the willpower to speak up for the needs of the tribe. This is about willpower too, the heart ego center. So that's kind of a way you can sort of generally weave it all together. Okay, checking in. Oh, I see there's some chat. Does anything before we keep going? Okay, 26. Yeah, 2644 Tiffany has. Yeah, Camden, you have the 26. I also have the 26 in my personality sun. So it's a whole thing. Maybe between the two of us, the tribe will listen. Exactly. And Tracy P, you have a few gates, no channels in tribal, only one channel, the 2034. So you're only individual. You're only individual. So, okay. So that's great. However, I only have one channel and it's collective. That's all I got. So, but I very much connect with these tribal energies because I live with people. I'm in partnership. I have friends, and it connects different things for me. And also, and I've been led there by my strategy and authority. So it feels correct in my like deep in my being, in my nervous system, not in my mind, like in me. And so I get access, all of those get defined for me. I have a lot of tribal activation that happens because of the tribe, the correct tribe that I'm in. So yeah, I love that you brought that up, Tracy, so we can kind of illustrate different ways that can show up. Okay. So I'm going to move on. So we're going to look at within even the ego circuit, we can sort of look at these different streams. And I want to do it this way because it's a little easier to kind of lay it out and see how the mechanics work. So there's this stream of instinct, right? That makes sense. It goes through the spleen. It's like the drive for well-being and the communication of what's good for the well-being. Okay. And then the stream of sensitivity. What emotional principles are there? What needs do we have? Which this is the channel of sensitivity, synthesis, sensitivity, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then, what is the right community? And let's communicate what those are needing. Okay, so it's a, God, why does it keep doing that? It's about awareness flowing through instinct. Here, root, spleen, ego, instinctively knowing what you need to do to bring out the resources. Now this is rooted in smell. Doesn't that make sense, Tiff, with your because 2644, even though you're not smell cognition, there's these other pieces that make us sensitive to these different senses. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything. Do you want to add anything?
No. I'm just I'm also a stream of sensitivity, and I'm looking at all my hanging gates now.
Oh yeah, because you have the 32, right? You have 32 from the spleen.
I do have 32 from the spleen, and I have 49.
Yep.
Yep. But I don't have 37, so it's this. There's a halfy stream there, and then there's a halfy stream on the other one. No, I have
interesting.
No, yeah.
You have 3 of these 4 gates on the stream of instinct.
I just need a 54.
Because you have 32,
Who has
26,
the 54? And 44.
Yeah.
Who has it?
I don't have it.
We need it. Camden has it. We can
have So we got the drive and the ambition here and the money line over there. So paying attention to you, Camden. Okay. Yeah.
I know that Camden's a manifester, but Tracy, what's your aura type? Generator. Great. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to speak for you, Tracy, but I'm 3420 means
perfect. Manifesting. Oh,
yeah, because it is sacral to throat. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Cool. Me too.
So it's rooted in smell, this instinct, which also makes sense just when you think of instinct, it's something, I don't know, there's a slight, I don't know, something smells funny, so you can kind of see those connections. You smell the ego, the strength of power, what you need to instinctively transform and transmit for the health of the tribe. So that's kind of just naming that. And then overarching of the sensitivity. So that's the root, solar plexus, ego, sensitivity to the needs of others, sensitive to what the bargain is. So, okay. So let's go into the channels in the stream of instinct. So the stream of instinct is this is called the channel of transformation and being driven. So it's this ambitious drive and energy driven to transform the energy of the tribe. So my husband has this. So it's the 32, which we have, Tiff, me and you, and that's the duration, the continuity. It's what can or cannot be transformed. Do I have the not perseverance, because that's a keynote to another gate, but it's do I have the endurance to stick with it long enough for it to transform? So and it's always interesting how these gates are named and things. So this is okay. So 32 is the finance manager, the personnel manager, the shop floor manager. It's looking down. So thinking about the tribe, right? Looking down and seeing on an assembly line one worker that's working harder than another. So it's okay, we want to promote them with their skill and efficiency, so we have better shop and factory results. Let's give them a promotion. So it's like knowing where to put the resources so that things can be transformed, right? And this is also, so every gate in the spleen has a fear associated with it. Fear, this is fear of failure. So it's like, it makes sense. It's like, can I endure the fear of failure to stick with this to see if it can transform?
Well, and that fear of failure too is really one of those instincts that keeps you alive. It's like a survival
Oh
thing.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
totally.
So
Yes,
I'm
and
not,
all
it's
these fears you can see. Yeah,
all of
totally.
them, right? Like you could see that if I'm afraid that this won't work out, I'm afraid that the tribe is going to suffer in some way. But then
Right.
from a
It
psychological
saves you from a
level,
lot.
it
Right.
saves you, but from a psychological level, you're sitting there thinking that you're actually afraid of a thing and not realizing that there's a deeper HD tactic going on
Right.
where you're
Right.
actually have this other thing illuminated for the tribe of humanity, and you're over here thinking I'm afraid. So you're doing all these fucking mind things
Right. All these
to get
moves, all these
unafraid,
matador moves.
all
Yeah.
of these matador moves to get over fear when it has nothing to do with, you know, the fear. It's actually informing you that something's not going to work out so great for the tribe, right?
Definitely.
Tracy,
Yeah.
you guys can
Oh,
unmute.
Tracy
Like,
has it too.
yeah, don't feel like, I mean, if you can't, it's totally cool, but she's got the gate 32,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
driver to
I also have a
overdo
32
to
can be a driver to overdo. Yeah, because we don't have the gate that is the drive to push through. So we're gonna, every gate we don't have, we're gonna like be not self. If we're actually doing the drive to try to do that, because it's really about getting over the fear of failure, what seeing sticking with something until we like, do we have to endure long enough to have the success, you know? But again, like Tiffany said, there's the there's the fear of failure that is such a great thing that we have, that is like, you know, an exalted way that that can show up if we know our human design and we know, oh, this is how I'm meant to just be afraid of that and kind of look and follow my strategy and authority for what is worth enduring, and what is not cannot be transformed yet. But I don't need to find the drive within me that's actually going to, you know, tax my system physically, my nervous system, all of my things, because I don't have the 54. I don't need to do, I don't, that's not my thing to do, you know.
yeah.
That's about waiting for the right fuel and efficiency and timing and joy to show up from
I have that,
probably
right?
someone else. You don't
32.
have the 54,
No, I have the
but
32
yeah, you
because
have
I
the
feel like that
32.
all the time. And I assumed it was a quad left thing because I'm like, train's going off track. Does anybody care? You know, and half the time, like, nobody cares. And I'm like, it's gonna wreck. And then it wrecks. And then I'm not like, told you so. I'm just like, how
Knew
are
that
you
it was,
not
yeah.
believing me? Like, I can see what, you know,
Right,
what's
right,
happening
right.
here. And so I guess I've just assumed that ability to know when, you know, what to be afraid of, what's not going to work out has been more of a quad left thing, but it's maybe this
Mm.
is where it's a better
Well,
fit.
they, you know, they start to like Venn diagram and work together and
Mhm.
merge. So yeah,
Point is,
and
I know
do
when it's
you
going to
need,
derail, guys.
and if you feel it derailing, do you need to like have the drive to push it forth on the track when you don't have 54? You don't need to like do that part of it. You know, it's just like, ooh, you know, just
Mhm,
following the response. Or maybe it does because you're a 3-5. Maybe it does need to fail, you know.
mhm.
Like you're gonna find all the things that fail before you find the things that work, you know. The other point I was going to bring up is it makes me think of, and I know we've been talking about this a lot, Tiff, is the shadow versus the exalted expression, you know, because like you're saying, Tracy, it's like, so, you know, the fear of failure can be this beautiful, healthy expression in us, or it can hold us back from doing anything that is actually correct for us and creating what we are here to express in this life, you know. So that's where the deconditioning layer comes in, where, you know, we've got to look at those shadow sides. We've got to look at where my fear failure is over functioning big time and I'm not wanting to do anything because I'm afraid I'll fail. Like, where is that versus where is it like this correct response, or, you know, initiation or invitation in me that I'm receiving, that I'm feeling correctly, that this is the fear of failure. It's the healthy fear of failure. Yeah, I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna fail. Let me look at that. Do I have the endure? You know, the duration is not the right, the enduringness to stick this out, or should I just, you know, wait longer until I respond. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You guys, because I don't have 32. So do you guys ever, does the fear of failure really stop you from trying something new? Because for me, my parents always told me if you fail, you can always come home. And one of my favorite quotes is, you try, you fail, you try, you fail, but the only true failure is when you stop trying. And so for me, trying something new, as much as I do overdo, like you, Tracy, because I'm afraid of failing. But sometimes when I do fail, it's like, it's almost like relief, like, oh man, I failed. Like, that's awesome. I can try again, you know. But do you guys ever feel, does it ever like paralyze you and stop you from trying something new for fear of how it might impact you or how it would impact people around you in the tribe?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm a 1-3, so experimentation is, I think for me, it's less sometimes the fear, unless it's a large scale. Like if it's something that's going to, you know, result in something massively bad, that might be it, you know, like death or, you know, you've wrecked your car or something like that. But sometimes I think it's that fear that will drive towards it. Because for me, it's like, oh, well, what if nobody's doing this? Why don't I experiment with it? Because there's fear for other people. And I feel that, then it's like, oh, well, let's try this. And a lot of times, like the worst that can happen is this just doesn't work.
Yeah.
I just get frustrated because I'm like, knew it, said it, you know. I mean, I'm not going to fail me. So there's that. I'm not afraid of me failing me because I've been on my personal journey for 42 years. And I know, I mean, I'm very familiar with how I work, right? But it's when it involves other people that I'm like, you know, if you don't leave at 7, you're not going to get there by 8. And it's stuff like that. And I'm like, okay.
You know? Yeah, I have it more like that with my regular job where I'm around other people and I'm like, I see this train coming, the train's coming, and then they're like, oh, we're just gonna do whatever, and you're like, all right.
That's exactly how I feel, Tracy. It's like, oh, then the thing's not going to get done, which if you don't care about, then I don't either. But I have a sense of knowing that this is not going to work.
Yeah. Right? I wonder if that's where, and Leisha, I know you're going to get to 54, but I wonder if that's where 54 comes in. Because if I see the train's going to wreck and nobody else cares, I will take care of it all myself. I have done so many projects by myself.
That's how Devin is too. I mean, I do feel like that it's that drive, you know, piece, because it's the gate of drive.
I feel like I have that too, though. It's almost from
you have it in other, because you have like a defined ego, and there's other nuances.
Maybe there's a distortion to how I'm doing it because I do get very self-reliant-y, where I'm like, y'all aren't going to do it right, so I'm just going to do it myself and know that it's going to get done right. That's perhaps a distorted way of acting because I'm not in response. I'm just forcing my way and initiating something, you know. And
it's that's, you know, it's like, that's the question, like, see where it feels like good, like, oh, this is my response, I'm like energized by this, versus you know, you get that, like, it's like a pokey feeling that it's not correct, it's not smooth, you know.
Oh, I know that.
We know it. We know that feeling.
Yeah, because I think the 20 picks up for me, where if it's something imminent, it's in the now, and then my gate 20 will pick it up, and then I'll do whatever the thing is.
Yeah, it's like almost like in response. There, you have the response to jump in. It's nuanced, yeah. And
another example, maybe it's a bad example, but I worked in a bar for like 20 years, and so there's a girl there that will overwork and overmanage and clean everything and do everything. And I got to the point where I'm like, you want to do it? I'm not going to try to challenge you or beat you or clean more than you or stay up later than you or get there earlier than you. It really helped me relax some of that like fear that it's not going to get done.
Yeah.
You know, that drive that it's like, oh, it's just interesting how the dynamics of different situations, you know, can show you what works and doesn't work, I guess.
You know, for me, it's been like, I would say both, like fear of failure has some at times in a subtle way. It's not like, I'm afraid that's not gonna work, so I'm not gonna do it. I mean, I'm a 1-3, please. But also, yeah, there's a layer of that in the unconscious that I've become aware of that has been there. But also like, of course I'm gonna F with it and like figure it out. And if it doesn't work, then like, great, I discovered that doesn't work. Keep on going. I'm a 1-3, you know? But yeah, I think that it's nuanced, and it'll depend on the other pieces of the design. Like if someone has a defined root and has the 32 over here and a defined spleen, that's going to be a different answer than someone that has an undefined root like me, Tiffany, and Tracy, and you know, doesn't, it's like there's the hurrying, and then there's like a drive, and then that's amplifying. Like that's not even, you know, it's like, yeah, I have the duration, but I'm going to rush it through. I'm going to drive it through, and I'm going to make sure that it's done before I even, like, you know, when I've already done, like, I'm going to overdo, I'm going to do all the things on the list and add some more on the list. So it's going to be a different element if it's defined or not defined, you know, too. The 54 is the gate of drive, but it's like, they call it the marrying maiden, which is just a funny name. But what you can think of is like the moon. It's like, it's a developing thing over the life. So it starts like as a new moon, and it's gradually over the whole life. It's gonna be a like a, you know, a something that becomes full over time. So what to drive change for, what to apply that ambition to. It's a process, right? So it's not just, so that's where the marrying maiden comes in. It's like, if you think about the maiden is almost like the new moon, or like a, you know, Tiffany, probably you should give me the correct, like a waxing moon or whatever. And then it's like, you know, she gets married, and she has to become sort of the wife and like more of a fuller version, and then she becomes like the mage or whatever, like the wise woman. And so it's like this lifetime process. So that would be interesting, Camden, like as we do these, to hear how that kind of feels or has felt up to this point, and then how you continue to notice that opening and developing. Okay. And then the 4426. Okay, Tiff. So the 4426 is the channel of surrender, or the transmitter. And Tiff does have this channel. I think Camden, me and you both have 26. Tracy, do you have anything in this channel?
Yeah, I have 26.
You have the 26 too, and an undefined ego. So that's, and now I know Camden and Tiff have a defined ego. So that's a whole different thing. The 2644 is about, okay, it's funny you say that, Camden, because the 54 almost sounds like an Empress or High Priestess card. It has a, one of the lines, I believe it's 54.5, is like a very existential gate, an existential line that's like enlightenment and darkenment. Like it is like huge transformation, and like almost like alchemical over lifetimes kind of thing. So I don't know what line you have. But I'm gonna
I
look
have
just for my
54.3, and it's in my cross.
You have three, you have it 3 times. You have the gate 54 3 times. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Like you have it, yeah, you have it all on the design side. It's unconscious. So that'll be part of your, like, okay, now I know that the drive is like, woo, I got three of these. I mean, and a defined route. So it's consistent that you probably are driven to, you know, to transform, to initiate, to, you know, start things, to
that makes sense.
To apply energy, you know, adrenalized, explosive initiation, whatever. Okay. Because she's a manifester. So 2644 is this memory channel. Let's just read it here. Takes energy to transform and transmits. It takes the energy and transforms and transmits it and sells that value, so the tribe agrees and receives the support. So we can see that in Tiffany, right? Like, I mean, it's so perfect, of course, as we've been exploring this for a couple of years now with together, and with yours, Tiff, it's like so clear, like you're the way you are in the group, and you're kind of transmitting and sharing these different keys, which is your other channel, and you're following your response, and you've been invited to kind of lead this group, like they're in the group, so there's an invitation there, which is like your other channel, and so you can see this transmission. My husband also has this entire channel. And man, it is like a magic, it's like the marketing channel, it's the salesperson, it's a manipulation, but I always like, we've talked about this last time, like the good version of the like what's the good one? That's what I think of for this channel. It's like the the manipulation for the best of everyone, for everyone's well-being, It is like, if you think about it, these are projected channels. Like you have to be invited to transform, to have that drive and ambition. Like you need to be invited into the right tribe for that to really express in its highest form. And same thing, you have to be invited to transmit the messaging of the tribe, but man, it is real. Like there's like a skill and talent there that's like I'll often be like, Dev, how would you say this? Because I mean, I have half of it and I can access, like I've done a lot, but even when I'm creating posts or writing, I'm like, it takes me a lot longer than Tiff will just be like, well, post. And I'm like, it would have taken me 3 days to have that on the list and then like edit it and do a whole thing. There's also the defined ego, not an undefined ego element there too. So this 2644 is about memory manipulation. So there's a big memory piece here. It's like the memory of, it's almost like, I think of it as, because 26 is my personality sign. So I really feel that part of the channel. But it's like, I almost think of it as like, when I look back at my past, yes, I remember all the like negative pieces, all the like challenges, but I do sort of not remember that. Like my siblings will bring up things and I'm like, don't remember that at all, didn't retain it at all. Like I remember these pieces and that pieces, and there's other elements of my design that happens with too. So it's a beautiful thing to only pick out those like beautiful rose-colored glasses pieces. However, it's also like, in order to really truly deconditioning, you do have to decondition you for this to express in its most exalted form. You do have to kind of, okay, what did I like erase between these memories? Let me go into the depths, let me go into the shadow, and alchemize that so that this is truly the proper expression of this memory manipulation. It's like taking the alertness in the spleen. This is the gate of alertness, right? Coming to meet alertness. Now, my youngest son, he's 7, he has the 44, and I have the 26. And one thing I've even noticed, it's like he like physically, now there's other pieces in his design, he's a generator, but it's like there's this theme. I mean, he's 7, so it's like developing, right? Where he'll come all the way to the thing over here, whether it's my physical body, whether it's a couch or a chair. He's coming to meet, he's getting on, like he's on it, and it's almost like, so I've started saying like, come halfway and let me come meet you, and using those languages, because it's very like, like physically it's like jarring as hell. And so he's like rough and things, but it's like, because he's coming to meet, and he's got other root to sacral and other things too. But so it's like the alertness in the spleen. It's like, this is like the reality. Like, let me come and meet what the manipulation of that memory is, what what the rose-colored glasses version of things are. Now, what's the reality? That's why it's so good. It's like, I see the rose-colored pieces and I can manipulate things, but I know I have to transmit this in a way that's like also for you practical, right? Line 5, practical, and is going to, be something that can actually be used in reality. So to me, like often the reality piece is a little bit of something I have to kind of, Tiff, can you read this and like workshop it with me? Dev, how would you say this? And then I nuance it back through my system. So I'll read this: alertness in the spleen, and taking what shows up on the ego side and tame it. So the taming of the power of the great. So it's like, it's the alertness in the spleen, it's the ego self-worth, and taming it through the memory of what you can bring out of it. Taming it all this great stuff and just going, okay, we're going to pull this one piece out. Okay. So 44 is also the fear of the past. So that's the fear of the past. So it's like, ooh, let's, I'm looking, it's interesting because it's like the memory piece, but then there's a fear of the past kind of on the other side working together. It's this deep need to remember every lesson in everything in history and use that in a way to always be ready for whatever you meet, for whatever happens in reality. And it's like this fear of the past that's built in. So that's part of what's driving this transmission. And to me, the surrender piece, and Tiff, you can probably add personal, expertise here because I don't have the whole channel, but it's like the surrendering is like, oh, the transmission when when the person is surrendered to what is correct, what they respond to, what life is asking of them. It's like that message, it's almost like it takes surrender for the transmission to really come through. Would you add anything to that, Tiff, with the surrender piece?
Or
does that
Well, I was actually kind of stuck in thought about, I have somebody I'm very close with that like can recite dates and times, and I make fun of them for that, where I'm like, oh, on October 14th, 1972 at 4 a.m. it was
right.
Tuesday, the moon was waxing, and I am making fun, but they are able to do that, right? And it's but they don't have the 44, they have the 26, they don't have the 44. And so I'm wondering if after all that is incorrect or distorted to be hyper focused on looking at the past.
Interesting.
And it may or may not be, it's not my journey because I have the whole thing, but
well, I mean, I can relate to that because I have the 26. I don't have it in a defined ego, but I have the 26 as my personality sun, which is the biggest expression. But I definitely know, like, for me, it works differently do the other pieces of my design, but it's like, I can think of a memory or hear a song and I know exactly where I was, what time it was, what date. I know when a movie was produced, exactly what, when it came out, because I know where I was, when I saw it, and all those things. So I feel like there's a piece of that past piece in there. And I can also relate to like the fear of the past piece, even though I don't have 44 defined. It's almost like it goes with sort of pulling out only certain things. It's not a fear of the past. Like I wouldn't be like, I'm afraid to look at the past or like afraid. It's like, I don't want to repeat it, but to me now it's this clean expression of like, I'm alchemizing for future backwards and forwards generations. Like I'm not, so I don't know. There's an element of fear of the past, but it's nuanced, I guess, for me.
And when you talk about surrender, you're asking about the gate of surrender. For me, that word comes up a lot in the psychic realm because you can't, I mean, if you're not surrendered to spirit, however you believe, if you're not surrendered to a higher power, then all you're really doing is talking from your ego. You're just telling somebody what to do. You're coaching them, you're informing them without consent. They're thinking that you're tapping into God's source and you're just not, right? So we use the word surrender a lot in that space because you have to get over what you think you're seeing and how you want to say it and just give the message and let it be what it is and not get hurt feelings about it. So that ego versus surrender piece is, I don't know, it's a really big deal in my space. And it's very clear. Like to me, it's very clear when somebody is surrendered to spirit. There's a softness, there's a different tone versus being an ego and needing to be right and needing to communicate because they want to hear themselves or they want to be special and different. There's just such a huge like, talk about the smell being off. Like I can just
smells bad.
Yeah, like come over here, let me help you out. You're onto something, you're psychic, everybody's born psychic, you don't have to prove anything, just like let's do it from a surrendered place and see what you can get, because it's a much more powerful transmission of the message when there's a full surrender. So I would like to, if I can figure out how to pop in the chat, I will. There's been a couple songs that you and I have been sharing in the morning that you brought to my attention that I think would be a good resource. So I'll mute myself.
Definitely. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And one is the I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. And it's just that over and over, but it's like the surrender piece, you
And
know,
you like keep thinking she's gonna change, and it's like the full 6
no,
minutes.
that's
That's all that's happening.
That's the transmission. Oh my God, it's so true. Okay, so I'm gonna move forward because oh my God, we have 10 minutes and I still have to go to like the whole stream of sensitivity. Okay, so I'll move through this a little bit quicker. Okay, so this is awareness of what is needed and knowing whether you can supply that or not. Right, so this is like the emotional principles. And so channel 1949 is here, and this is the wanting and approach and the principles and revolution. So Tiff, you have the principles and revolution. However, it's in an undefined solar plexus. So it's not always that you should be in this kind of revolution expression. Or that it's going to be certain others that ignite that in you. And then through response, you know when to, transmit things that will create revolution. Okay, so synthesizes all that needs to be provided and bargain with the community, ensuring we have enough for everyone's needs to survive. So I'll read, let's see. And okay, so this comes with a bargain. Okay, if I'm going to have awareness of what you need, I want some level of like obedience. I want you to obey what I need too at times. And this really resonates with my teen, who's very emotionally defined, very integration circuitry individual, all the things. And I've started saying, well, like my emotional principles for the family are this. And so in order to, like, what do you need? Like we talk about what they need all the time, but it's like, hey, but the bargain is that the family needs these things for emotional principles. I want to spend time together every day, whatever. And so I see this quietness come over them when I speak that way. It's like they're hearing me, they're individual, acoustic. And so it's like, that's the languaging it's speaking to something deeper in them, So I'll even just experiment and F around with all this language, even if it doesn't even make sense in like layman's seven centers terms, but I see the kids, I see my husband, I see friends, I see anyone. There's something that's like, ooh, it's touching something deep down there in the DNA, So I want you to obey what I need to at times. So again, using that languaging, I'll do this, but this is what it means. This is the bargain. And again, this takes time because it's emotional. So there's this hope to pain, overtime, despair, hope, cycle. And all these emotional waves have different ways that the waves, like one ratchets up and then crashes, one like builds and then slowly, one's like just this pretty much even thing and then it goes, or like that. That's the 1222, which I have two beings in my house with the 1222. So this is about timeless traditions that say that when you enter into emotional bargains, what you get out of the bargain may not be clear. It's never clear, right? It's never clear until later. This is like the reflective side of the chart, right? It takes time. It only becomes clear later. We better put it in writing because everyone will remember something a little different as to what they thought the bargain was. So that's been really successful too with our family, is like, let's write it down. Let's put it on the fridge. Let's, bullet point it and put it, because they're manifesting generators, so they're going to need bullets. Let's put it up on the thing, and so we can all kind of see it and repeat it, or we put it in a text, or we do something. Now, just a few little extra things. The 1949 is the full refrigerator channel. So that's interesting. It's like emotional emptiness or fullness. To ability.
Refrigerator?
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's funny. And it's like a stomach relation, So, okay. Not going to cover that. The 19 is the pressure and energy to need or not. Wanting. Do I approach this with my wanting? Do I approach this with my needs or not? Through response, through the emotional process, hope to pain, And the 49 is awareness of what is needed or not. principles that everyone has to adopt in order to be part of the group. So TIF, right? Like, it's like, these are my principles. Please adopt them to be in my tribe. You know? And it's like wanting people to have good principles. That's what you trust. So it's like there's a trusting of principles that align with your own, you know, inner correctness.
Ethics is the first thing I teach in all of my longer courses, is ethics and morals, and I have a list, you know, it's a synthesis of yoga, AA, spiritualism, the 7 and to 9, depending on who you follow, tenets of spiritualism. And so like that whole ethics.
Those are your, yeah,
these are our morals here at Wise Skies, you know, here with Tiffany. Then, and if that's a great fit, come on board. And if it's not, no problem. But
you know,
the St. George plays, right? Like, it's not gonna vibe, it's all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and then the revolution piece is just like leaders not offering the principles of support for everyone eventually lead to rejection, which is the gate of rejection too, the gate of divorce. This is the channel of marriage, and then there's like the gate of divorce. Revolting or not revolting against principles, 49. Yeah, okay, Tracy, you have that too. So the 3740 is from solar plexus to ego. This is the channel of community, or a design of a part seeking a whole. It's like, and again, these are both projected channels. So you have to be invited to share your principles, invited to synthesize, or at least to support the tribe with the synthesis that you have. This one's also a projector channel. So this is, you're invited into a tribe and continually respected for who you are and what you are delivering. Because this is the gate of family,
channel,
right?
And I don't have any of it.
This is the gate of family and friendship, and then being delivered. The gate of 40 is deliverance and aloneness. So I'll go into that. So 37, awareness of who will or would not provide what is needed with friendship and emotional connection. There might be a fear of maintaining traditions, doesn't necessarily have the will to maintain those traditions on the 37 side. So I have the 37 in an undefined solar plexus, don't have the 40. So like you, Tracy, you don't have an undefined ego too. So yeah, so it's like, I find I love traditions, but like, I don't have the willpower to make, I'm also like not consistent in a lot of ways because I have so many open channels. I get it, you know? So stop trying to push myself to make that happen. Just when it happens, let's do it. And it's great. And then 40 is the will or lack of will to provide for those with needs, right? This is aloneness. It's the, like, I can deliver the community's need. I can deliver like to the community, especially friendship and things, but I need time to decompress, to be alone, to reflect, to because of what I've done to support the tribe. Okay, for what I've delivered, right? All right, we are at like, oh my God. So I've got to do one more channel, and it's the 2145, the money materialist. This isn't in the stream of awareness, or I'm sorry, the stream of instinct, or the stream of sensitivity. This is just also in the ego circuit, right? So this is the 2145 money materialist. That's a channel of money, design of a materialist. This is the spokesperson of the tribe. This is what you said you needed. I've sort of surveyed my tribe. It's not about like, I'm a queen, do what I say. I'm the king, because this is the, 45 is the gatherer, but it's like a servant leadership, which I talk about in my conscious leadership development classes. It's like servant leadership is I'm only successful as a leader if my tribe is successful. I'm only supported if my tribe is supported, if their needs are met. So I have to be connected to my tribe. And this is 21 is the huntress, the hunter or the huntress biting through it. There's like a control. If someone has the 21, they're going to want to be in control of their relationships, of their money, of their job, of their entrepreneurial endeavors, and if you have the whole channel, it's like, this is really like, you probably are going to eventually, Camden, I know you have the whole channel, and this isn't the situation yet, but we talked about it yesterday, is like, you're probably going to want to be like your own boss. manage your own money, be in control of your time, when the work rest gets to happen, when to push through, when not, when to speak up, when to not. And especially as a manifester, when to like have those super like, explosive initiations and then major rests, Okay. Oh my gosh, we are at 1 o'clock. How's everybody doing? Can I wrap this out? 2 minutes, 3 minutes? Okay. That was an extra one. These are all ones I forgot to delete apparently. Okay, so what to do with this? We like to do a practical summary at the end. Look at yours and others' tribal circuitry. Just look at your chart first off, look at the gates. What do we have? What do we don't have? How is it expressing? Is it an undefined center? Is it in your tribal? Is it in your incarnation cross? You honor your own individuality and design first. Note the trade, the deal. Does it feel correct in you? Did you follow your strategy and authority? What's the bargain here? What are the rules in this tribe? And don't make mental decisions to get out of it. Follow your strategy and authority always. Use this languaging to support loved ones and self. Like I said with that channel 1949, like these are there are emotional principles for a healthy family. You do this, I do this is the bargain, this is the deal. Does that feel good to you? Asking a generator a yes, no question. We discuss, we do the whole thing. It's clean, it's clear, and it feels good, it feels smooth and right. So I wrote some journaling and contemplating questions. What are you driven to transform? How is fear of the past showing up for you? How might it be showing up for you? Are you part of the right community? Are your emotional principles being met? What is the truth of your own creational nature, your own material nature, physical, mundane plane of earthly plane? What is in surface to life? Exploring your relationship with touch. This is what we can get from the tribal circuitry, because we all have these things. It's just whether it constantly expresses and it's fixed or whether it's open. And then when it's open, we've got to watch the not self, where we are not defined, because that's usually what's running that openness, instead of, ooh, I'm flexible and open with this. I don't need to prove. I don't need to, whatever the open thing is. Course human design sessions. We can look at all different stuff with that, and then really just watch and wait. Do less. Me and Tiff, we always do we like to say the like Gen X latest saying, but it's like, say less. We both have Gen X kids, and Camden, you are a Gen X, so get in here with your say less. And then I have a final just some quotes. I know so many people who in the study of the knowledge miss the truth. The truth is how you operate. If you operate according to your strategy and your authority, this is what changes the life. It's the only thing that changes the life. And it's the message that will always be the message of this knowledge, strategy, and authority. Because all this tribal and collective and like, oh, we love, and it's great things to look at, but ultimately core thing, us 1-3s, we love our core thing. Follow the strategy and authority. Forget everything else. I like to keep my not self questions right next to me. Think about my strategy, like constantly be aware of my strategy and authority. Was I invited? What was I actually invited for? What was I actually, did something come to me and I'm responding to? What did I initiate? What did I, it's quite the journey to get to this place. And again, there's nothing to do. Do less. If you look at your design and you see you're not in the right environment, it's not like this is the time for you to panic and change it, right? It will only change when it happens. This isn't going to change any other way. It can't be allowed to change any other way. It can only happen through your strategy and authority. Otherwise, you're continuing your not self incorrect thing. You've got to re-templatize to the strategy and authority is going to determine. That's the new template for me. If we use our mind to get out of stuff or to do things that are outside of that, then it's just continuing to create that not self situation. And we can feel that. It's one of the dilemmas of taking in information. You take in information, your mind has a natural tendency to want to act on it. No, no, no. Awareness is, that's interesting. Let's see what happens. That's all. Tribal circuitry, interesting. We'll see what happens. See what I can see what awareness comes in. And once it's in, it's in. It's in your system now. The information is there. You're not to do anything. And oh, so much better that you don't. So you can watch and you can see. And to me, that's the biggest thing, is like the 1-3 messaging is like, we've got all this knowledge, but now it's up to each of us to go and like make it real by actually experimenting with it, moving that way, being that way, watching, doing less, say less. So, okay, final, done, scene. Oh my gosh, 4 minutes passed. Anybody have anything to add?
I'm excited for Penta whenever we get to that.
I know. Oh my gosh, it's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So thank you. We had so many little similar activations and definitions. So it was fun to compare and hear your experiences too.
Awesome. I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you, Leisha. Bye to all our friends watching the replay.